Okay, so good morning and welcome to General Finance of July 18th. I'll first begin by identifying any media on the line. Thanks. I see Bree from the Turtle Island News. Welcome and good morning. That's the only media I see on the line at this time. The next item then we'll look to the adoption of the agenda. So if there's any changes or deletions.
I'll move.
Moved by Michelle, seconder.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Helen.
Well, I had sent an email out the beginning of last week asking if I could have a copy of the audit before it's presented to council so I could have a chance to go through it. Because as I mentioned in my email, I have a very difficult time understanding Anna when she presents anything. So I wanted to read the audit prior, so if I had any questions, I'd be able to form my questions before the meeting, but I haven't gotten a copy yet.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Anna Cecile, can you comment on that?
The audit is not ready yet. The auditors are still working on it. So as soon as the audit becomes available, the draft document becomes available, it will be put in the Dropbox, and I will make sure to send an email to councilors so they can have the heads up.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Anna Cecile. I see Becky has her hand raised.
Oh, both of these?
Oh, sorry. Tammy,
I walk for that song.
Tammy, you're still you're not on mute.
Just take it from inside.
Sorry if I could get everybody who is being on mute.
Whatever, this week sometime.
My apologies. Sorry, Tammy, if you could hear us okay, you're not on mute. Okay, sorry. Becky, did you have a question, comment?
I received an email this morning from Steve Williams about the by-election dates. He wanted me to add to the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And I think Tammy, we did touch on that at our last meeting as well in terms of potential dates, so we'll get back to that one. So I'll add it on as new business. As well as I believe Councillor Sherry Lynn for the economic development table at Chiefs of Ontario. I believe she plans to attend, so we'll add that under scheduling as well. So there's just two additional items. It's been moved already. Is there a seconder to that effect? Looking to a mover and seconder on the adoption of the minutes, or any further questions or comments?
I'll move on the minutes.
Moved by Nathan, seconder.
I'll second Sherlyn.
Second by Sherry Lynn. Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Number 5 on the agenda is the July 13th B&I Committee recommendations. Recommendation 1. Sorry if I can get the mover, Hazel.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah, no problem. Over to you.
I moved that the B&I committee recommends to the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council that whereas the Six Nations Social Services Department has identified that there is a need for outdoor land-based learning programs before and after school hours within the federally run schools. And whereas the Six Nations Social Services has collaborated with the Six Nations schools to construct modular buildings to meet this need for a learning space for programming. And whereas KL Martin and Associates Corporation have been hired to provide design, tendering, contract administration, and construction review services for this project and have reviewed and recommended the award of this contract. Therefore, that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council approves to award the Social Services Modular Building to NRB Incorporated in the amount of $485,000. Further, that the project team be granted a contingency of $50,000. Source of funds identified as is Federal Safe Restart Funding 54006752-CBD.
Okay, thank you, Hazel. And I'll need another seconder as I was seconding just to get it here. It looks like Helen is seconding. Are there any further questions or comments?
I'm seconding with the seconded with the question.
Sure, go ahead, Helen.
I don't understand that part where it says Kale Martin and Associate could have been hired to provide design, have reviewed and recommended the award of this. So they're the ones that's recommending this NRB Inc.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Michelle.
Okay, so I was just wanting clarification because I didn't catch that in our meeting. So this isn't a post approval, correct?
Moved by Hazel, seconder.
Oh,
Second by Helen to waive second reading. All in favor?
Favor.
Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. The second motion from B&I.
I move that the B&I committee recommends to the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council that whereas the Six Nations Social Services Department has identified that there is a housing need for those families involved with or at risk of child protection involvement due to housing insecurity customary care arrangements for up to 2 years. And whereas Six Nations Social Services has collaborated with Six Nations Housing to construct a 12-unit apartment building to meet this need within the Harold Road housing development. And whereas KL Martin and Associates have been hired to provide design, tendering, contract administration, and construction review services for this project and have reviewed and recommended the award of this contract. Therefore, that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council approves to award the Social Services 12-unit apartment building to Lanka Contracting Limited in the amount of $4,389,000. Just a minute, lost my spot. Further, that the project team be granted a 10% contingency of $438,000. Source of funds identified as BANREP funding 54,000-6350, 3 million reimbursable 54000-6325, FWBP 54000-CC-OF14. I so move.
And I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Hazel and Michelle.
Just clarification, remember the FWBP, what's that stand for?
So to my knowledge, that's the coding, if there's any the coding to the funding. Is that correct, Anna?
Yes, they went to the exact detail of the coding.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Hazel and Michelle. Are there any further questions or comments to this motion?
Second.
Moved by Hazel, seconded by Michelle to waive second reading. All in favor?
Favor.
Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. This next one is in relation to the Iroquois Caucus funding transfer. There is some background to this. If I can look to, I believe Jill is on the line to speak to this item.
Sure. Good morning. This particular transfer of funding has been outstanding for a number of years, given the COVID-19 and the challenges at the Iroquois Caucus in terms of the coordinating committee. So where it's standing is, whereas the Six Nations of the Grand River was the coordinating community assigned to oversee the Iroquois Caucus finances in 2013-2014, and whereas the transfer of this responsibility to Oneida Nation in 2018-2019 was met with challenges and was not completed, and whereas the coordinating community has now been identified as Akwesasne beginning in 2020, it was late 2020. Therefore, the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council approved the transfer of the remaining balance of Iroquois Caucus funds that have been held in the amount of $87,916.76 to the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, and that the elected council waive second reading.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Jill. So yeah, I know that this has again been kind of in limbo status as we were going through the finances, going back and forth when Oneida first took them over. And so now that I think this is getting on track and we're meeting obviously more regularly at the Iroquois Caucus, we're looking to get the finances out of our ownership really, or coordinating position, and transferring now to Akwesasne. So I know this has been kind of on the table for some time, so I'm glad to see that it's finally here and transferred over to the new community who will be in charge of finances for the Iroquois Caucus. Is there any further questions or comments?
I'll move this.
Okay, it's been moved by Nathan. Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Second by Hazel. Is there any further questions or comments? And as you all know, we do have an upcoming Iroquois Caucus meeting at the end of the month as well. just a FYI. Seeing or hearing no further questions or comments, all in favor?
Favor.
Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Motion to waive second reading.
Move.
Moved by Nathan. Seconder.
I'll second Hazel.
Second by Hazel to waive second reading. All in favor?
Favor.
Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. The next item I'm actually going to, this is in relation to the security camera. I know this was discussion at the last finance meeting at our federal school buildings. I'm actually just looking to get further clarification I have a meeting scheduled on a number of other items as well with Ann Scott. And so I'm going to defer this item until I have that meeting with Ann Scott and on this specific item, and then bring it back for council for when there's more information on this piece. So if that's okay with council, just want to look to if there's any opposition. I just basically want to get further clarification on Ann Scotton's end on the source of funds.
Mark, could I ask a question?
Sure. Hazel?
In regards to those security cameras, are those just to be on the outside or are they on the inside as well?
So that's actually something that we were looking in terms of part of the cost, we had the team, Mike's team, look at building this out. So I'll have to get that once I bring the item back, Hazel, just to clarify, because from what we discussed, it was to be both, but I wanted to just make sure that that's reflected in the total cost.
I certainly hope that you're able to get funding, Mark, to put it outside, because I think the security needs to be beefed up. I know every day we're hearing things on news, and it's scary. Let's just put it that way.
100% agree. And in fact, this actually came out even further as we know, there have been some bullying issues within the schools. And so when I had attended with parents at one of the schools, this had come up as part of, obviously not going to solve everything, but going to give, the school, opportunity of eliminating kind of he said versus she said type of thing. And so that's something that, as well as we're looking at the bigger picture of, how we could start to address some of the safety and bullying concerns happening at the schools. So I'll definitely look to get further clarification on this, and we'll bring this back once I meet with Ann Scott. And is there
Melba?
Hi, Melba, go ahead.
Yes. Sorry I was late here. I had trouble getting in. Anyway, I agree with everything that was said, that there's reason to be concerned about inside as well as out, because with our social structure and the violence that is around us as well as on the inside concerning drugs, and which results in certainly violence in the home many times, and custody orders also. So it goes on and on. So we certainly do need cameras on the inside too. And of course, we have a lot of mental stress and mental illness all around us. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Melba, for your comments. So I'll definitely, I know this has, again, been on the table with Ann in the chief's office, as well as Travis as well. So I'm going to get the clarification after Ann and I's meeting, and then we'll bring this item back to council for further approvals. Okay, that being said, the next item is in relation to the Canada Summer Games. So this is obviously we've probably heard and seen, the Credit First Nation has obviously backed out due to their, knowledge of lateral violence happening at the table. Unfortunately, or rather fortunately, that's not the position of Six Nations. As you all know, Kevin Sandy has been the lead on the Canada Summer Games on this piece, as well as myself, who've sat in on a number of meetings in terms of what our participation would look like in relation to the summer games. And so when this had come back to the table, there was funding from the Niagara College that we would look to basically divide equally amongst the partners at the table. And so we've been working with the summer games on those dollars. And so as we know, it's fast approaching. And so part of the goal is to have activations, so different programming throughout the summer games that we can, again, much like the Pan Am and Para Pan Am games, and where we were showcased, obviously the lacrosse, showcase different demonstrations. And so Kevin Sandy had reached out to the chief's office to look at other ways of where we can look at different activation sources of funds. And so he had put together a little budget, again, to kind of look at, our participation. I know he's also had a conversation with Jock at the HTCC. We don't really, again, we haven't had those same issues that the credit has experienced. We, again, have been looking and sitting at that table as an equal partner, again, wanting to move forward and wanting to make sure that our programming and really just telling our story throughout the summer games is there. And so we think our participation is definitely needed. And so at this time, again, it was requested for a $20,000 request to look at further the programming itself. That would include, again, our cultural piece. So dancers, singers, some of our athletes, our lacrosse players. And so that's something that, again, Kevin is looking to still further during the summer games. There is a number of items, again, regardless if council approves this or not, we will still be participating in some fashion of whatever budget we still have remaining from the split of the Niagara College funds. And as well, there's an additional piece that is due to the withdrawal of the Credit First Nation. So there's a few extra dollars as well to be divided amongst the partners to be spent in the best way each partner sees fit. And so really the whole purpose of this is to include more cultural programming, more sports activation, highlighting lacrosse, and again, wanting to just have our athletes, or rather even young people, be able to fully see some of our presence throughout the summer games, which are happening throughout the Niagara College, or rather Niagara region. So again, that is the request coming in from Mr. Sandy, as well as myself. I did say that I would bring this to the table at finance to see if council would consider looking to the $20,000 request to further the activation in cultural programming throughout the summer games. As we know, it's coming quite quickly. And so again, he's looking for an answer so that would base his whole activation programming. So I do apologize. It's just a verbal presentation at this time. But again, we did not experience, again, the same things that the credit had experienced. In fact, we were there to collaborate and partner as equally and as much as we can at Six Nations with the other communities still at the table.
It's Melba.
Hi, Melba.
Yeah, it's Melba. Yeah. I think it's very unfortunate, that your credit isn't taking part, but as you said, we're going to move forward. And I think it's really important what Kevin is doing and how he's involving the culture, not only the sports piece of it, but also the dancing and singing. So I think that's really important. Then you get a holistic, view and experience of what is happening with here at Six Nations. So I don't hesitate to move to accept the $20,000 that is added to the funding that's already in place for the games.
Okay, thank you, Melba. So it's moved by Melba. Again, just really quickly, FYI as well, I think that will bring the total at this time budget to 36,000 if the 20,000 is passed. So the 16,000 did come from the Niagara College funding, and then any additional funding will be on top of the 36,000 to do any further programming or activations throughout the games, and that would come from again our next meeting once we figure out again what would be that equal split amongst the community still at the table. Michelle, and then over to Hazel.
So whenever there's games, I know they're sponsored by big corporations. So was there a fund set aside outside of Niagara? And do
So
we always contribute to these kind of huge events?
So that kind of varies. I know what we did in the past at the Pan Am and Para Pan Am Council did support as well, but there were more of the corporate sponsors as you speak. The other piece to it though was we definitely had more time to plan further at the Pan Am Games. This one again. We were going back and forth with the different community partners to see which communities could be able to contribute. Obviously, the summer games aren't as big as the Pan Am Games were, so there's still obviously the corporate sponsors there, and we still have the support from the summer games committee itself. And so this is just really to do our own kind of style of activations and programming.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Hazel.
Just want to ask a question insofar as Six Nations participation. Do they do that in collaboration with our tourism department, where to me it's like promoting our tourism as well to participate in all of this? Have they been a part of all of this? And I guess what I'm wondering, and I find hard to understand, is the fact that if credit pulled out and cited the reasons being that there was lateral violence. My goodness, what kind of lateral violence was it? Was it bad, or was it just difference of opinion? Because those are two separate things. The lateral violence is just as it says, lateral violence is bad.
Well, I totally hear you, Hazel. In fact, I can't speak directly to their experience. However, our experience at the table has always been very respectful, and so our goal is to really not obviously comment on their experience if that's how they feel. I know they wanted different items to be brought at the games and the opening and different involvement. And so, I don't really see it as it was very equal in a sense. And so that may be part of it. I don't want to speak to that on it specifically, but again, our experience has been we've been there as an equal partner since day one, wanting to bring forward, as much as we can from Six Nations. And so Kevin and I have had this discussion and want to continue just moving forward in the best way, as we have not experienced any lateral violence at the table.
It's good to hear. Thank you.
Thanks, Hazel. So just looking to a seconder to Melba's motion to accept the request of $20,000 to be further added to the programming. Is there a seconder?
I'll second Hazel.
Second by Hazel. And are there any further questions or comments? Source of funds, obviously, I believe would be through the OFNLP. Oh, sorry, Anna Cecile.
Yeah, I was wondering if we can add source of funds for COVID.
Okay, so is that, do you have the program or the coding already to that, or is that enough wording for finance, Anna Cecile?
You will have to mention, we don't need the code, we just can mention that it's from the source of COVID.
Okay, thank you, Anna Cecile. So source of funds are identified. Is there any further questions or comments? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Motion to waive second reading.
I'll move, Melba.
I'll
Moved by
second.
Melba and seconded by Hazel to waive second reading. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, Council, the next item is in relation to a donation request from the Ontario Native Welfare Administrators Association. There is a letter attached. I just wanted to further ask question, Tammy, is this in relation, or rather, I think was this the one in relation to the donation committee?
Actually, I wasn't sure how these kind get handled because it is addressed to chief and council. So I did forward it on to finance to ask them to put it through their proper process. So it is on the agenda. So I'm guessing that the proper process is for council to review these types of requests to organizations outside the community.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Thanks for that, Tammy. So I will look to council. There is a letter attached. If council is willing or prepared. And sorry if I could just check in with Anna Cecile. Is this something as well, Anna Cecile, that has our Director Ontario Works been involved on this piece as well? Is this something that Sandy is aware of?
Mark, to be honest with you, I've been sick for 3 days and just try, to get back on my feet. So I have not reviewed this request.
Okay, maybe what we can do just for if council's gonna, I know, like, when the donations come in, we want to have a fair and equal process. And I know that's exactly why we have the donation committee. So maybe perhaps if we can look to just hold this item until we can have further discussion with Sandy. Maybe perhaps there's dollars within his budget for this request to go through his budget in that case. And then we'll have to come back for final approval for council. So if that's okay with council, if I could defer this item for further conversations with our director and to see if there's any additional funds, and again, wanting to make sure that there's fair and equal process. Is there any opposition to deferring this item? Okay, I'm not seeing or hearing none. So Anna Cecile, if we could just further follow up with Sandy on this piece and then bring this item back. Okay, I'm going to move on now to scheduling. Really quickly, I did add a scheduling item for Councillor Sherry Lynn Hill, who will be attending the economic development table. There's two really big items on there. It's the banking issue and the First Nations bank issue that we're looking at, and I think it's important to be there for that discussion. I know Mr. Williams is as a part of that table as well. In fact, I'm going to try to join virtually as well, but I believe Sherilyn will be traveling in person, so she does need a motion to attend that meeting this week in Toronto on behalf of the Economic Development Committee of the Chiefs of Ontario. Is there
I'll move that.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Melba, is there a seconder?
I can, Michelle.
Second by Michelle. Are there any further questions or comments? I think the second piece was in relation to taxation, excise tax in financial services, so banking. Is that correct, Sherilyn?
Yes, Chief. It was all those. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. If there are no further questions or comments, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Motion to waive second reading.
Melba, move.
Moved by
Second.
Mel. second by Michelle to waive second reading. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, the next new business item is in relation to the by-election dates. I know Tammy did have or reported to council on suggested dates for that by-election to happen. Sorry, Becky, just wanted to confirm with you within Steve's email, is there anything further related, or rather just to set the dates itself? Just wanted to clarify first, and then I'll look to questions and comments. Becky?
It's just the dates. He's got suggested dates on there. I forwarded the email to council a few minutes ago.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that, Becky. Sorry, further questions or comments? Helen?
Me?
Sorry, yeah, Helen. So just really quickly, the by-election dates. Sorry,
I've sent about 3 emails, I think, in total, that council is not supposed to have anything to do with the election. We don't set the dates. The election officer sets the dates. We have nothing to do with it. We have to be completely at arm's length from any election. All we do is let the electoral officer know that we have to do a by-election, and we set a budget. So I don't know why Tammy's looking at dates, and that's because it has nothing to do with us. We have to be impartial.
Okay, thanks, Helen. And as you see from the email as well, the nomination dates from the CEPO, the by-election, or rather, the nomination would take place August 6th from 9 till 12 at the council house, and then the election would be September 3rd from 9 till 2. So those are the dates that were further set within the CEPO's email. I see Tammy has her hand raised.
If I had prepared a briefing note for next general council, because I thought that's when council was going to be discussing this, but Steve is correct on the dates, but I must correct Councillor Miller. Council does have the responsibility to set the dates. Once council sets the dates through a BCR, and a BCR is required for a couple of reasons, because council is also required to provide the CEPO with the voters list. And in order to get the voters list, it requires the dates to be confirmed through a BCR. There's also some time requirements, and when we're reviewing the election code as well as the CEPO manual, there isn't a lot of discussion on by-elections. It mostly speaks to the general elections. So that's kind of a void. So there is some discretion in there whether or not council wants to have an advance poll, but given that it's to fill one seat, and the community has been made aware a couple of weeks ago that there was a vacancy, I think the dates that Steve has suggested, if council's prepared to set a BCR today, I think those actually work quite efficiently. And I have actually prepared a briefing note with the recommended BCR that I can screen share. Of course, the dates now would be different if council chooses not to have advanced polls.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Tammy. I do appreciate that. So there is, again, from the email sent, so there are the dates of the nomination. So it's up to the council, again, to set these dates and allow the BCR and the process to happen after the dates are set. And from there, we have done our part on this by-election. So the CEPO is suggesting the nomination date of August 6th, again from 9 till noon. And then the election on September 3rd from 9 until 2. Is there any mover and seconder to setting those dates?
I'll move that, Chief, that we follow the CEPO's suggested dates for the election.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. It's moved by Carrie, seconded by Helen. Are there any further questions or comments? So obviously, after this is set, it's back into the hands of CEPO to further the by-election. There's no further questions or comments. All in favor?
Favor.
Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Motion to waive second reading.
I'll move that.
Moved by Carrie, seconder. Second by Helen to waive second reading. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, so we did complete our new business for the open session of general finance. I will look to a motion to adjourn at this time. Is there a mover and seconder to adjourn? Moved by Helen, seconder.
I'll second Hazel.
Second by Hazel. All in favor?
Favor.
Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Thank you to everybody for joining us this morning on general finance, and I hope you all have a great day.